Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today, especially on a Saturday evening for the PGPMAX Student Diaries hosted by the PGPMAX office at ISB. My name is Thomas, and I'll be your host today. The Student Diaries is our outreach initiative that brings together our current participants of the program. So, therefore, it is your opportunity to ask current participants of their program experience, why they chose to do the PGPMAX, how the program is helping them professionally, and essentially get an insider input into what is happening in PGPMAX. So, as we progress with the discussion today, feel free to list in your questions, and I'll be happy to share it with our panel. To do this, please make use of the Q&A box, which is available towards the bottom of your screen, and I'll be happy to share it with our panel after the initial introduction to the session. We also received a lot of questions from your end as you registered for the event. I'll be sharing some of these questions with our panelists, and we'll be having a discussion on this. We'll be limiting the entire questions today to the panel and to the program it's only. If there is an admission related query or a program related query that you might have, we'll take it offline. I'll share a link to book the one-to-one conversation with us, with our admission office in the chat box in some time. Please make use of this link if you have an admission related query. So without much delay, let me welcome our panelists to today's event. We have three of our current participants from the PGPMAX class of 23. I have with me Ashwini Kumar. Ashwini is an AVP at eTech Global Services, a leading provider of BPO KPO services in the country, and is a global operations leader with over 2 decades of experience. Welcome, Ashwini. Also joining us today. Welcome. Also joining us today is Srinivas Buddharaju. Srinivas is a Web3 consultant and is a veteran who served in the Indian Navy. Welcome, Srinivas. And I have Sudarshan Mahibal in the panel today. Sudarshan has had a long career in data science and today wears multiple hats while also being the founder, CEO, and principal consultant at Mava AI. Welcome, Sudarshan. Now, given the diverse group of individuals that we have in the panel today, I'm sure that you would have a lot of questions on their profile and professional journeys. So let me start with an introduction to our panel. We'll get their backgrounds and hopefully that is going to set the context for the questions that you might have, and you can start sharing your questions in the Q&A box as well. Ashwini, let me start with you. 2 decades of experience in the industry, leading a lot of processes and engagement both in India and abroad. 12 plus years into the senior executive role that you're handling. With all of these experience, what brought you to PGPMAX? Could you give me a background of your experience and help us understand what brought you to PGPMAX?
That's a great question. But first of all, thank you for inviting me, Thomas.
Pleasure.
Meeting session. I'm sure it's going to be great listening to my friends Sudhu and Sri on this panel. And hopefully I'm going to add some value for all the future students who are joining this session or going to listen to this. Now, my inclination towards some study, not necessarily executive. MBA started in 2016 when I felt that the way I'm doing certain things. By that time, I had almost like 15 plus years experience, but I was thinking the way I'm doing things, there has to be something different. Whether it's a flow, whether it's a process, whether it's an approach, or whether it's a decision making, right? There has to be something different. And I was started looking for some options. I evaluated many options. But same time, my organization was giving me some great opportunities to build businesses in cross-cultural, different geographical environments. I was taking that. But COVID actually was an icebreaker. When we all got stuck in the four walls of our rooms, that made me think that I have time and I'm not utilizing that time constructively. That's okay. You're reading books, you're spending quality time with your family. That's a golden time period actually for many of us. We spend some very good time with our family. But I felt that this is the time I need to, open that box of learning something. And I always had two institutions in my mind. One is ISB, Hyderabad, and because I was in connect with a lot of alumni of the same course of 14, 12, 13, 16 batches, and we always used to interact for long. And the second was IIM Ahmedabad, PGPX. Now, um, and I gave my GMAT also because that time online GMAT was applicable, and I had some decent score, which could have probably got me into IIM Ahmedabad, at least in front of panel interview. I'm not sure about the selection. But the thought process was like, for that, I have to leave my job. And I don't want to take that hit because my wife, my wife said, "What are you doing? You're going to leave your job. Why you are saying you have to pay only this much money for that course? Add your 1 year, compensation complete, plus all the other expenses which we are going to incur at home." And that made me think that, okay, ISB was always my first choice. PGPX, I was looking because they give you campus placement. But that was the first. And the second was I got connected with someone who has done PGPX at the age of 40. And he also told me, Ashwini, you will be the most youngest person in that group, but I would prefer you to think about it. They might give you opportunity to come in front of them, but I think you should go for ISB because you probably will have people better than you or equal to you in that cohort. And whatever you want to get, as far as the learning is concerned, that will upgrade um, your skill, that will upgrade you. And that's where finally ISB happened and Thomas happened, and I started, interacting, and I then applied. So it was purely COVID as an icebreaker to cut short. I felt that I have time, and I always wanted to go through Executive MBA because I was not happy with my other MBA, which I did in 2012. I felt probably I did it because I wanted to have MBA tag, but I felt that probably there has to be a better way of doing this. And that's what put me into ISB.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Ashwini. There are some follow-up questions on that. I'll come back to you on that.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
and Srinivas, let me come to you next. You've served in the forces. You were with Indian Navy for a very long time, and you were in fact handling a role where you manage very large group of people. So you were handling them as director HR. But every time I see somebody from PGP Max come up to you, most of them come to you not for a people related query, but then they come to you for something around NFT or cryptocurrency, and essentially anything and everything around Web3. So I know that there's a transition that is happening, but how has that journey been happening from the forces to something that is very new, something that everybody is interested in into the Web3 space? Please give us a gist of that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, for putting that in perspective. Basically, telling from my Navy experience to NFTs. Basically, around 2019, I had finished my mandatory 20 years of service, which you need to do as a permanent commissioned officer. And I was in a place where I was doing research. I was in an educational institution kind of place where I was training people on warfare and strategy. So basically, the entire Indian Navy's battle plans used to be drawn up in our organization, and I was the one who was in charge of that. So that was very exciting. I did a diploma in maritime law, etc. at that time, and I wanted to get into research. So that was my first this thing when I wanted to go out of service. I thought I'll go into research, maritime research, all that kind of thing. And I was also interested in finance. I mean, I remember very early in the academy, somebody had told me about Dalal Street magazine. And since then, it was like stock market has always been on my radar. But because you sail so much in the Navy, you can't really invest sensibly in the stock market. So while doing that finance research, so I used to do two types of research. One used to be towards maritime history, maritime operations, and the other was finance. And the third thing is that I'm a collector. So basically, I collect old coins. So India silver rupees, those kind of things, I used to collect. Like when we used to sail to a new port, I had friends street hawkers in every port who used to wait for me to come when my ship would come in, and they would keep some Indian silver coins for me aside. So, so, So these three things together, I think, got me into when I first heard about cryptocurrency in 2016. So that is when I started doing a little research and all that. I read the white paper. I won't bore everybody with the details, but basically I got interested in cryptocurrency, did a lot of research, and that led me to something called non-fungible tokens, which are NFTs. They are digital collectibles. So you, like my coin collector in me, wanted to collect these things. So that is how I got into it. And so, like I was saying, in 2019, when I saw this, then COVID happened in 2020. I did an MBA online through Upgrad to IMT Ghaziabad. But that didn't give me the kind of thing that I was looking for. There were all these youngsters who had just put in about 1 or 2 years of experience, and they were all there. So I didn't feel like I was part of the group. I felt like an outsider. Like Ashwini had brought out the cohort. So that is why I started looking for something that gives you a different kind of not only the learning but also the experience, the overall experience. So that is when I started researching, and I narrowed down to two, not the same that Ashwini narrowed down to. I went in ISB was my primary, and I had also narrowed into INSEAD. So that is the story how I got into it, and subsequently, like I decided to do the course after I retired from the Navy. So last year in July I retired, and I started the course in August. And to basically, I wanted some free time to be able to get into the Web3 space. So like you said, I've been Web3 consulting. So on Twitter, I've got a following of about 16,000 followers. So I build NFT communities on Twitter. And I'm also a licensed franchise consultant, which I took up after moving out from the Navy. And so that is the why basically what professionally I'm doing right now. And I mean, ISB was a natural choice for me. Maybe few as we go ahead, I'll cover more about that. But this is the genesis of how I went for ISB and how I went from Navy to NFTs.
Excellent. Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you for putting that context. Now, Sudarshan, let me come to you. You have had an extensive career in data science. You were the chief data science officer for a very large corporation in the US. So you already had a dream run. Whatever you have done there is possibly something that a lot of people are looking up to. And then today you're wearing multiple hats. So you are an entrepreneur, you are an advisor, you are a data science specialist, you are heading an incubation project, and so on. Please give us a insight into your journey so far. What brought you here? What brought you to PGPMAX, and what has the journey been?
So I would, if you allow me, I can just use a quick
Yes, please.
slide
Yes, please.
out of my pointers, right? So are you able to see my screen on the PowerPoint?
We can. We can.
Great. So, the story started, I will not take you through 30 years of detailed journey, but high level, right? So I started from 90s with urbanization to globalization. So I grew up in a very small town called as Loha, which is not a less than taluka place, what we call it. And then I moved to Mumbai for my education. And further along, I moved to San Francisco for my dream job in the Silicon Valley. So that happened in 2000. I was where I wanted to be in terms of my career journey, right? But in 2000 to 2022, a lot of things happened in terms of the career growth. I grew up in Silicon Valley. I got both the sides of my equation in terms of technology certifications. I grew up in my career. I did my MBA from a place called as CSU, California State University in San Francisco. And then later I did my specialization in strategy in Stanford University. So all those things happening, I grew from in Cisco as an IT engineer to become the global head for data sciences in Cisco channels and Cisco security. So that happened over 22 years of time frame, a long time. But while doing that, I was leading global teams, in Silicon Valley, Michigan, Pune, and Bangalore. Further along, when COVID happened, I took the opportunity to move back to India from the US, and I became the CTO for a company called Algo Analytics, doing a lot of Singapore government jobs for digitization. So that happened, and I would say, kind of Indo-American world I have lived for a very long time. And at one time, I said I need to do something different, right? In terms of, I think a lot of people recently have seen this movie Oppenheimer. So I'm going to use an analogy from Oppenheimer, right? In terms of fission, right? So from nuclear fission, when you become too heavy with ideas, with a lot of stuff that you have enough money as well at some point, or you don't have that much desire to earn more money. You try to get into this diffusion, right, in terms of fission. So I use PGPMAX very tactically as a if I use this analogy of neutrons bombarding into my core and say, let me just split myself apart metaphorically and do something very different, right? So I did started four different things, and they are all four things are going beautifully well in the last 1 year. I wouldn't say I'm making money I was making in Cisco at the same pace, but that was not also priority for me. I want to do something different, right? Totally step away from a mundane that corporate job I had that paid me well, but also I was lacking something in the core of that entrepreneurship, the ideation, and the time I want to nurture my own thoughts that I did not have. So I want to take this break, honestly, because even if I had MBA in the past, that MBA was done with a specific intention of kind of erasing my tattoo on my forehead. That in the US, if you are an Indian expat, you are always seen as a techie, right? So I did the MBA in the US to erase my tattoo on my forehead that no, I'm not a techie, I can talk business as well. So that happened, but that happened 20 years back. Now I was ready to do something more different, more executive, more senior level, right? In terms of getting ready for the C-suite. So for doing that, I started four different things. So being a student at ISB, then I started teaching. Teaching has been my passion. I was doing the adjunct professor for many years. So I had started heading the MSc Data Science program at Symbiosis Pune that I'm also currently doing right now. I teach multiple courses to BSc and MSc Statistics and Data Science program. I started my own company doing consulting with the US clients and Singapore clients. That's going well. And I also started heading an incubation center, right? So that giving back to community was also on top of my mind. So I started a chapter in Symbiosis called as ACIC, Atal Community Incubation Center, right? It's a government funded, co-funded project. And it is to get the social, like people who are underprivileged, get them ready with the entrepreneurship and innovation. So that I'm doing all those four things and they're doing beautifully well, right? I mean, I couldn't have imagined, and they were not planned, right? When I joined this course, I said, I want to do something different and let's kind of cause this fission reaction. It just happened that all these four things came along and they started fitting as a piece of puzzle, and this is how it has evolved the whole 2023. But what I want to get out of this, right? Again, using the open hammer example, I want to create this fusion effect, right? In terms of now, I have this four different elements created within myself. I see myself as a somebody who can teach, who can learn, who can start my own startup, and who can help people start their own startups as well. So getting that into kind of not that. So I think Oppenheimer, like an example from the movie, he says that how do you create a hydrogen bomb, right? You need so much energy to cause the fusion that you need to have other nuclear bomb to cause that fusion reaction. So I would, if I use my analogy of fission here of 2023, that has given me enormous power and insight and energy to cause this nuclear reaction in the future, hopefully 2024 onwards. I want to bring it all together, right? So local, I have a US experience of 20 years. I have an Indian experience now. I am working in so many different areas. I want to bring it all together, connect those dots. And I think ISB make got me ready for thinking out of the box, right? I have some more things to add to this later on as we get into more details, but this is where I want to pause in terms of what led me to ISB and comparing with INSEAD or Harvard or London Business School. I compared different programs and I said I want to stay in India and I want to choose the best one because I have already got one MBA from the US. Why not get it from the top institute in India and grow in India? And that was my plan to join ISB.
Excellent. Thank you for laying that out, Sudarshan. This really helps, and we'll definitely come a lot more into the role that you're handling. Ashwini, let me come back to you. There are a lot of questions that I received when I rolled out this student diaries. A lot of it was comparing PGPMAX with other programs. Now, I vividly remember we having a lot of discussion on PGPMAX, comparing it with other programs. You had other programs in mind. So these questions that I keep getting are on, how should I compare PGPMAX with other programs in India, with other global programs, without taking any names of those programs? You did this comparison from your side. What was the difference that you saw? What was that final 2, 3 pointers which told you that Max would be a right program for somebody at your level?
That's a great question, Thomas. Uh, there are several factors which actually ultimately acts as an influencer towards a final decision. One of those factors is your personal, preferences and obligations also, along with financial and all those perspectives. So on personal front, I felt, first of all, for ISB, I was sure because ISB is one of the leading institution in India. It's such a young institution that Srini is wearing a t-shirt. It reminds me that it's established in 2001, just completed 22 years. It's pretty young institution, still has such a huge legacy. Means I am in touch with many alumni of ISB who are doing very well, wherever they are, whether they are in corporate social responsibility, or they are entrepreneurs, or they are heading some businesses, etc. Uh, so I was sure of ISB as an institution because I wanted to have uh, a brand coming on in front of my head. I never had that opportunity of working for any brand in my career till date. So I wanted to make sure that there is a heavyweight coming on my profile, because that actually not only boosts your credibility, but it also creates a reliability factor. When you plan to go in C-level or entrepreneurship, it's important to have a reliability factor also, where if you are being seen as a reliable, you have a chance to, get a better opportunity in terms of areas of influences which you like, which you desire. Second, personal front, because I felt I can manage this both in terms of work-life balance, in terms of financial obligations. I felt it's a very, I don't want to say it's not a flexible program. I used to say that before. It's not a flexible program. It's a modular concept. It gives you an ample time to study all the cases and pre-reads at home for a month, prepare yourself, and then go in the campus. And in 7 days, the kind of a rigor is like equal to almost 30 days. Means I never like to wake up in the past 2, 3 years post 11, but sometimes this program pushes you. Means I and Sudarshan are on the same boat. It pushes you to wake up even in the midnight to do some activities. That's the other one. The third is uh, during my research. So I decided I'm not going to do full time because of the first two reasons, right? During my research, I felt that ISB has very high credibility in terms of your faculty. You don't just utilize your residential faculties, but you get some of the best people from outside India. Now, that was interesting to me because I have been heading businesses globally. I have set up businesses in US, Jamaica, several places in India, just recently in Mexico, and I'm working on Philippines. So I always wanted to, hear out the global perspective, of the things which I've done locally. So how the global perspective works. How, say, for example, in London Business School, we had this entrepreneurship course or innovation course. The professors who were teaching us, they were from there. So it was like reading their mind. So, it actually makes you unlearn many things which you were thinking that, oh, you were doing great because you are domain expert. Like it says, once you spend 1,000 hours in any particular subject, you become SME of that subject. So I realized that it's not the case. You basically unlearn everything and relearn. So the faculty which ISB selects, the global perspective of those faculty, that was the influencer. And last but not the least, I've already shared, I don't wanted to compromise on my annual compensation. Otherwise, wife would have taken me out of my home. So I wanted to make sure that I save that perspective also. I hope I've answered the question.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashwini. That lays out a lot of points for people to consider as they go through this program. In fact, a lot of participants that we have today are people who are actively applying and considering applying for the program. So all these pointers will help them assess the program and compare it with any of the other programs that they might have in mind. Srinivas, let me come to you. Some of our participants today are from the forces. Now, moving from the forces to the other side is it's if you have to put it, it's a proposition with a lot of uncertainty involved, and it's not an easy journey. And you are in the midst of the journey. You are now navigating that journey. So, how easy or difficult is it, and how will PGP Max help you in this transition?
Yeah, so that's a great question for the forces. I mean, I'll use an example, a simile of a swimming coach. Like when I was in the academy, we had a really bad swimming coach. So it took me nearly about 1.5 years to learn swimming. So if you see, it depends. Like every coach can teach you swimming, but a good coach can teach you swimming faster, may get you off the block faster, give you the tips and techniques which help you. So I subsequently on my own, I learned to become a long distance swimmer and have coached many people later. And then I can see what is the difference in how I coached them and how I was coached. So that I'm using that to drive home the point that it is very important when you come into a swimming pool, you're going to jump into the deep end. You need a coach who can help you get through that easy. So, and I have the experience, like I have done the management course from Upgrad, and it does give you a certification. But like Ashwini brought out, the brand, the faculty, and the network that you get from ISB is, I mean, it unmatchable. So that is the thing. That is why I'm saying for anybody from forces, though it is an expensive course, definitely, but the value that you get for life is much more. So that is why I would recommend anybody from the forces that you need to be in a place which gets you moving faster and off the, what do you say, because since you've come out, there's so much uncertainty and you need some stability. So I think PGP Max for me has done that. Maybe if you look at it just from, like, let us say at the end of PGP Max, is there what do you say, placement? There is no placement because this is a senior executive program. So if I leave the Navy at, let's say, after 23 years of service, I'm looking at joining the senior management in the industry. I'm not looking at joining an entry level job. So that is why PGP Max is important.
Thank you, Srinivas. That really helps. Now, Sudarshan, let me come to you. Another set of questions that we always get is, most people would have done an MBA, and then they would also want to do PGP Max at a later stage with credible years of experience. So there's always this question of, I've already done it. Is this the right thing to do another one? That was on one side. And your profile is one that where I believe you did an EMBA at CSU, and now you're doing the PGP Max here, which is also an EMBA. So given all of this, do you see any difference between PGP Max when compared to that experience that you already had? Are there any things that you can pull out as a parallel and show that would be different for somebody considering the program?
Honestly, we are comparing apples and oranges, but still I would try to bring out some parallels, right? So when I did my MBA, I was the youngest person in the classroom in 2002 timeframe, and now I'm the oldest person in the classroom. So that's one clear distinction that is out there suddenly. But when I did it in SFSU, the idea was that I was amongst a lot of Silicon Valley veterans around me, right? So I was learning from them. And one thing I was vividly remembering that I learned more from people around me than from the teachers who are teaching me. That message stayed with me that look, when you do your MBA and you go one more time, you have to find a place where people around you are like-minded, who are talking the same language that you speak, right? That's one important thing. Also, when I was trying to do my EMBA from SFSU, I had a lot of people from multiple ethnicities around me, which was really powerful that I could connect with people from Vietnam, from Taiwan, from China, from Russia. I remember from people from different parts of the US as well, somebody who speaks with Southern accent versus somebody from New York. So we had amazing composition there. But the kind of bond that you form, and we learned in our MBA, we learned this concept called homophily, right? That people, you connect with people who are like you. And I still have bond, I have good connections with those people as well from my 20 years back MBA. but the kind of bonds that you form with people culturally who are like you is phenomenal, next level, right? Because now we are like friends and we talk a different language. We have same type of food that you prefer, same cultural background. So that bonding is much deeper level, is in my opinion, right? So those two parts certainly is there. And the third part is the world exposure, that is a global perspective that I missed at that time. Because Silicon Valley being Silicon Valley, it is very focused on, no, we have been the top of the world and we do what we do. But in this program, you go and visit, let's say, Hyderabad, your Mohali campus, you go to London, you go to Wharton, you get a perspective in a global sense. And the kind of composition of class is that you talk about several different aspects, right? This pattern that unfolds when I start looking. If I can show one slide, right? My kind of keen observation from the program itself, if I may. Is that okay, Thomas? I mean,
Yeah,
timing
yes,
for that?
please. Yes, please.
Yeah. So if I can just quickly share one slide, right? I was just thinking about how to present this idea that there's a pattern to what happens here at ISB. I want to kind of highlight that. And these are my perspectives, not attested by ISB, right? These are my personal perspectives, how I see it, right? So there's a concept called as stereograms. When you look close to this picture, for example, you start seeing a pattern inside it. And when I started looking at ISB program, PGPMAX in particular, close, I found there's a pattern to the madness, right? About 12 weeks that we are together, or 15 months of the tenure, the program happens on two fronts, right? There's a qualitative element to it, there's a quantitative element to it. And the progression happens in a balanced way across quantitative and qualitative, and it happens across different months in a progressive way. So I call it like, balanced, progressive transformation, myself, my own transformation. This is what I saw. And this kind of structure I did not see in the CSU that again happened 20 years back. I'm sure things have evolved, things have, if I do it again from SFSU, it might be different as well, who knows. But this progression that I saw was phenomenal, right? And then at the same time, when this was happening across the months, I was able to apply everything I was learning to something inside me, right? So when I resigned from my job in August, and then I became a CTO, fractional CTO, I started my own company. I started doing projects in financial modeling, no? And then consulting CEO at the innovation. When we do innovation, I joined as a innovation incubation manager and CEO for that. So this happening that I'm applying all that I'm doing back in my job, not just doing this as a part-time activity, not on a weekend that you go and spend some time. This is like a full-time thing, and that you're applying whatever you're learning back to the job. This was not done before in my previous MBA that I did. And that was really transformational in a way, right? That in terms of giving me maturity, that is, I can see myself changing over this last 10 months that we have spent time together.
Excellent. Thank you, Sudarshan, for sharing that. In fact, let me stay with you now that you've shared the schedule. One of the questions that we get is how do you manage the schedule? And especially given the fact that you are now handling multiple roles. So you have your teaching engagements, you have your learning engagements at ISB, you also have your consulting engagements happening. And then every 5 to 6 weeks, you are expected to come to the campus, and there is no compromise on the academic rigor on campus as well. So how should one manage the time, and how easy or difficult is it?
See, I'm a Bollywood buff, right? I love movies. So I'm going to quote a very famous dialogue from my favorite movies. Teza, right? One of the movies that we grew up with. Ashwini, you will remember. Uh, there's a movie in the Anil Kapoor is talking to, I think, Madhuri Dixit. He says, "Time milta nahi hai, nikalna padta hai," right? So time is there. And a lot of times, as Ashwini, you're saying that, in the COVID time, there's so much time that you already have. And how do you spend that time watching Netflix and, Game of Thrones, and some crap is going on and you're spending time, wasting your time there. So instead, if you can accumulate that time everywhere, and if it gives you joy, right? If that gives you joy, do that. But if you want to do something different, then you have to find time, and time is available. So, for example, when I signed all these 4 contracts, right? I knew that I'm going to do my PGPMAX. I had my contracts with my incubation center, my teaching assignments. Everything is planned 1 year ahead of time. That, look, I am away for this weeks, and I'm not doing a full-time job. I'm a contractor here. And if you want to sign me as a contractor, please, you have to accept these terms that I will not be here. So I did that with a clarity and maybe people who are at a full-time job, they should do that with their manager or senior manager that, look, I will not be available this time. I'm doing this for my own self-growth and it's going to help the company as well. So that positioning is very important. That clarity is very important. So given a choice and given a commitment that you want to grow, you want to cause that transformation, then time to निकालना पड़ेगा. Time निकल रहा है. Time is there. It's just matter of using it to the right purpose.
Excellent. Thank you, Sudarshan, for sharing that. Now, sticking to the schedule itself, Ashwini, let me come to you next. One of the possible advantages of the schedule is that once you have a week of immersion, you then have another 4 to 6 weeks where you can actually go back to work and try and implement some of those learnings at work. Now, given that context, whether anything that you were able to take back to work, any learnings that translated to work as of today?
That's a good question. Thomas, I am seeing two questions on Q&A. So is that something visible to you all also?
Yes.
Okay.
There are
Very
questions.
good. I just wanted to make sure I don't miss out those questions. Just to add to what Sudarshan was talking about time management, I learned very late in my life, there is nothing called time management. It's about managing your own time, and it's all individual perspective, how you want to manage your own time, right? There are thousands of process flow or framework which talks about managing time or time management. But I think we as an individual know that where we are not investing time to get something, constructive out of that. I was fortunate that my company, I'm just sitting at a role where I have great leaders working for me. They're taking care of the businesses when I'm not around. And even when I'm on site, I don't fall in that hard category of a security protocol. So I'm able to go through some courses. I've been given some flexibility. But how that happened is, like Sudarshan got a very good point, that if someone is working, before applying, go to your supervisor, because it's all about your supervisor. If your supervisor supports you, organization by default will support you, because he'll fight for you. He'll get things done for you. You have to tell him or her what exactly you're doing, why ISB, why PGPMAX, how the course is structured, what are you going to learn, and how you're going to implement that. Just build some base on that. I know ISB is a big brand, and if your organization or your supervisor see a value add, they'll definitely give you a chance, for that flexibility. Because when you are in ISB for 7 days, you may want to give you 100% to the program and not doing some work during the course when the faculty is teaching you. That's what I just happened to speak to my CEO, and I was reporting to CEO at that time, and they just supported me and they got me exemptions. I don't even take leaves. That's how they are supporting me, though it's all financially sponsored by myself. It's self-finance for me, but they are supporting in terms of not taking away leaves and all those other things. Now to your question, John, like first 3 terms were very rigorous for me. Naturally, coming back to school after so many years, more than a decade, it was very rigorous, back-to-back terms. So there was a course which is very close to my heart, and I'm sure Sudarshan and Srini will smile when I say that. It's decision making under uncertainty. And there were a lot of simulations which we have been taught. I actually utilized some of the learnings from that course for decision making in my company. Now, I never did it in course. We were practicing it. Sudarshan is an SME of that anyway. We were practicing it, but when I came back to my office setup, because we had to do a lot of forecasting for next 2 years in terms of revenue, P&L, and all those perspectives, I had my MIS team doing some sort of those activities and helping me with a better forecast. So, and now when we see post that, it's almost a year now. Now, when we'll see post that the forecasting accuracy, we are far more accurate versus what we used to do before. Second is there are many courses related to finance, financial analytics in terms of decision making, strategy in terms of financial strategies. So I got to learn how to ask and what to ask to the finance person. And when my finance guy used to answer me as an accountant, I used to paraphrase those questions, and I used to ask him that, okay, tell me as a finance person, is this doable? Is this cost going to work? And that also made that person think that, okay, I was wearing a hat of accountant. Now I have to wear a hat of finance, because I learned through this program there is a difference between accounting and finance. To be honest, before that, I've done MBA in operations. I was not too deep into finance, though I was managing P&L and those sort of things. But some of those unique learnings you can take back. I was in a position where I did these things, but every role has some sort of learnings. You can take that back, and you can create some sort of your space in the organization, because uh, when you start when you complete your first or second or third term and you go back in your organizational setup, and even if it's a regular uh, huddle or a weekly calibration or a meeting, if you ask one or two of those questions, or structured questions which you learned from this program, I think your supervisors, your clients, or your peers, they get it very easily. That, okay, this guy is doing something different. This guy is actually doing something different. So, and then they start coming back to you for your advice.
Thank you, Ashwini, for sharing that. That is really insightful. Now, Srinivas, let me come to you. On the program front, it is a general management program. So there are a breadth of, in fact, a broad spectrum of subjects which are covered as part of the program. Now, that is also a little scary for a few people, because, all of a sudden you're forced to study accounting or finance, or you're made to go through statistics. And a lot of senior executives consider these programs with credible years of experience. So it's been about 15 years or 20 years out of their school, and then they're back to this. How does it work in class? Do they start from the basics and walk you upwards? Is it easy to navigate this broad spectrum of subjects which are offered? What is your experience been?
Yeah, actually, the thing is, it is, I mean, even for corporates, it is difficult. And for me, coming from the forces, I mean, I've never seen all these subjects in my life, but it's been on, I mean, after school, I've just not gone through these. But what they do is they give us these pre-reads about 4 to 5 weeks in advance of the term. And there is so much information in those pre-reads. If you go through all of them properly, I think it prepares you very well for the class. And like I remember in some of them, maybe in some I didn't have enough time to go through. But whenever I have had time to go through, and you sit in class, if you've been able to, like DMUU, which Ashwini spoke about, Sudarshan actually tried to teach us about it also. I mean, you have people in your cohort who will help you out where you have doubts. So that I didn't prepare for enough. So I found it very tough. But some of them where I prepared, like strategy, negotiations, when I prepared for it, it really gave me, I mean, you already have the knowledge. The course is structured in such a way that even like from the backbencher to the one sitting in front, everybody will be taken along. So if you just stick to the guidebook, I think it's easy to get through this. And there is, I mean, the professors, they actually they give you the opportunity to ask doubts. And if a majority of the class is asking more doubts, they usually slow down the pace. They change pace. I mean, they tweak a few things, but the information is all given to you. So I think there is no difficulty in being able to cope up. A few subjects, like about 5% of them, there will be an issue, because many of us are not, like, everybody is not skilled at everything. So there will be a few issues, but a majority of the course, it is easy to get.
Excellent. Thank you, Srinivas, for sharing that. Now, let's try and go into the classroom of PGPMAX. Let's try and get some insights from there. Sudarshan, probably I'll come to you. We say that it is going to be case-based learning, and there are, literally probably 100 plus case studies that you go through during the entire course of the program. Now, how is that experience going to design the learning in the classroom? How does all of this work? While you go through case studies, while you have a lot of group discussion, Can you give some insight into that? What really happens while you're there for that week?
Yeah. So case studies based learning is phenomenal, right? And it is used beautifully well in at ISB. That I can tell that because a lot of professors who come to teach at ISB, that at least for our cohort, those people had their own case studies after case studies written, and they were masterclass, right? Amazing case studies. And most of these teachers, they will not give you answers. Neither when you read a case study, you will have the answers, but the answers unfold to the class discussion. So, like an orchestra conductor, this professor will come in the class and he or she will ask the questions. And I can remember, I mean, Srini and Ashwini, you might remember this financial strategist for value creation, the lady who came from, I think, US, South Carolina University. Amazing, right? She had like literally 12 different case studies, and every case study we used to debate for hours to solve those answers. And we had people from different backgrounds, right? Like Srini said, we had financial experts, people who are from marketing. So those people add their own spices on top of it. And that's where learning happens, in my opinion. Not so much that what happens on the slides that teacher is teaching you, but what happens in the class discussion that happens around those case studies. That's where the learning, at least for me, that happened. And I'm sure Ashwini and Srini will also have their own perspectives on it.
Excellent. Ashwini, let me come to you. Please do touch upon the case study part. And also, since you spoke about faculties in the program, now we do have a good mix of faculties. There are in-house faculties from ISB and a lot of faculties actually flying from across the world. How does any of those things help, and what are some of those, outcomes that translate to the class because of this?
So case study like Sudarshan has already shared beautifully, orchestra example, the way he gave. I think case study actually led study actually put things in better perspective. For say, for example, I am not coming from a background of finance, and when I go through the case study related to finance, and then when the class starts and when the faculty starts, talking about the case study perspective, you actually try to relate things in a better perspective. It does not actually makes you like blindsided, right? Because you don't have a background of that, um, and you want to understand little deep. Case study actually helps you formulate that framework. It's a pre-read, you go through the case study, you have your own understanding about that case. When you are in the classroom setup, your faculty comes, they talk about the background of the case. They don't talk exactly about the case, they talk about the background, the topic in details, and then they generate the discussion. And when you have, I think 6 or 7 of our friends, they've come from a CA or finance background or accounting background. A lot of people like us, we are in PNL background. Everyone likes, talks about their own perspective, and that's where the learning happens, and you connect the dot. That's how the entire case study led discussion and entire, simulation as far as classroom is concerned is worked out. Now, to your question on faculty, which is a mix of India and global, I've already shared this. I always wanted to learn from a global faculty. Now, I'm not sure. I'm not saying this institution does not do it or this institution does not do it, because I don't. Everyone must be doing it. Every world-class institution must be doing it. But ISB, because of my interaction with the past alumni of 12, 11, even 10, 14 batches, I was knowing that you guys get some brilliant global faculties. And these are the faculty members who have written the cases, which is not a small thing. I mean, they have done research by themselves. So they are a part of that problem solution, or they were a part of that complexity. They sit on the boards, they navigate the businesses, they help in turning around the businesses, they help in formulating the strategy or pricing strategy or etc. of the businesses. The professor for negotiation, she was actually a part of many negotiations which happens between government to government. And I realized when I was talking to her, and then I realized, wow, what a deep perspective she must be bringing on the table. So that adds the global perspective, but also that helps you learn from the people who have actually done this, right? I think what I see in professors over here, they are not just the academically oriented professors, but they are actually practical oriented professors. They are actually doing it. They are somewhere connected with the corporates or the government or society or businesses, and they are actually doing certain things which they are actually teaching to all of us. So that the reality is brought into the classroom, and that's what actually makes you helpful. I mean, there are many. I know we have a paucity of time, but there are many situations happen when they talk. You actually try to connect that with your current setup where you're working, irrespective of your roles and responsibility, and you say, "Oh, this is happening in my company, or this has happened. This is how I could have handled this perspective."
Thank you, Ashwini. I'm taking one question from the query box since it is on case study. Varun has asked, are these case studies from current market basis or are these set case studies that the faculty is bring to the classroom? What is the combination that you've seen?
You like me to answer?
Yes, please.
It's a mix. And to be transparent, there might be a case study which is of early 2000s, mid 2000s, but there is a reason why they have been kept. Because if you know the failures which has happened in the past, there is a saying that you learn from the past. You don't live in the past, but you learn from the past so that you don't make the same mistakes in the present, correct? And you plan for the future. So it's a mix. I mean, there are some case study which will be of existing market scenario. It may not be the recent right now, like say if you have a term of we're preparing for a Wharton term, right, next week. So there may not be a case study which is of August 2023 because it has its own process. It takes a lot of time. Maybe Sudarshan can add on to this. But means we have a lot of old case studies of 2000, 2000, mid 2000. But I think it adds value because the problems are not revolutionizing. Problems are same. It's just the way the problems are coming to us in terms of complexity or ambiguity that changes. But the basic problems are same, right? You still have to focus on consumer. People were not knowing that before. Now people know that, okay, we have to just focus on consumer, but we have to customize also. So that Srini can get t-shirt the way he wants. Sudarshan can get specs the way he wants. Ashwini can get hair the way he wants. You know what I'm saying? So cases can be older one. Some of them can be the recent one, but not exactly of the current year or current month. I mean, I have not seen cases of current year as of right now. Maybe my friend Sudarshan or Srini, you guys can add on to this.
Thank you, Ashwini. So, Srini, if you want to add on.
Yeah, I'd like to add, Ratik. So, as Ashwini, you said, it is a mix, and we have done case studies from 2023. If I remember, just last month, we did a case study for Fluid AI, where the Fluid AI company, the CEO came to talk to us. And that was a case study which was the most recent one. Then I remember case study from 2018, 2016, 2000, and some before that as well. And just classics, right? Classics you can't miss, honestly. Classics and as Ashwini you said, history repeats itself. So history repeating itself, you can see the pattern that look, oh, this happened in late 90s, this happened in 2000, this happened in 2010, and this is now happening again. And you can see that trend and that connecting those dots effect. That is beautifully done. So in a short, the cases are diverse in nature. And again, one more transparency, right? In I think early on, first, second, or third term, people used to look ahead and know, hey, all these cases are very old case studies. What are we going to learn from them? And people used to, create a lot of ruckus that, hey, go back to the professor, ask him or her to get the latest case studies. And we used to come the classroom. You said, oh, this is why the case study is here. It absolutely makes sense. There is nothing that is latest that I can learn from. This has to be there. So that revelation happened in second or third term to us, and then nobody complained, right? Now, last 10 terms now, nobody asked that, no, go and ask the professor to change the case studies. Never happened because we know it is there for a purpose and there's some reason is there. So, yeah, it's a mix.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sudarshan, for sharing that. Srinivas, let me come to you next. A little insight on the cohort. Now, we, at least from an admission perspective, we put a lot of effort in ensuring that the cohort is very diverse. Now, the diversity is from multiple fronts. It's from, the industry representation, function representation, also the walks of life. There are, there's a lawyer in your cohort, there's an IPS officer, there are entrepreneurs, there are people from corporate, and so on. Also, sometimes when we get a lot of questions, people get intimidated when they see that, okay, a VP or a director or even a CXO is part of the cohort, and I'm probably a senior manager or a project leader. Will I be able to cope up with this? These are all questions that we get. So give us some insights into the cohort. It is a very, very diverse cohort. And how beneficial is the cohort?
Yeah, so, I mean, that is always there. And like me coming from a totally non-industry background, it was this fear was always there that how will I interact with these people? I mean, like, so these people are entrepreneurs. They are, like you said, C-suite. They're in C-suite. They're from different fields. How do you connect with them? That is the fear. But once you come in, I think the system of having that 1 week together, tight schedule, it gets you working with each other, and the groups also which are made in for the group assignments, the groups which are made in such a way that you have a mix, and every term you are interacting with different people. That is, I think, what builds connections. And since everybody comes this everybody has put in a lot of money, everybody has come with a view of learning, so everybody is much more open than how you would have met them in their professional what do you say setup. So when they come here, they've also let their guard down, and they're you can see the real human in the person. So that is how it is so easy to connect in that 1 week. In that 1 week, we connect so beautifully with each other, and the experience, like you said, there are different varied experience from different walks of life, different geographies. We are from different places. We even have 3 people coming in from Dubai. So the perspective that you get when you interact with different people, like I interact with people from manufacturing, operations, finance. We have everybody. And in class discussion, like post case studies, when you have the class discussion, that is when people start talking. Every term you learn something new about somebody. That this person can do that also. Like about Sudarshan, every term was a learning for me. About Ashwini, every term was a learning. So and I think before the end of the course, I will learn much more about these people, and that helps from the networking perspective, because in the future when you need some help after the course finishes, I think these are the people that I can lean on, and they will reciprocate. I know that is how the connections are built in the cohort.
Perfect. Thank you, Srinivas, for sharing that. Let's now also talk about the some of the features of the program. In fact, Sudarshan, let me come to you on this. One of the value adds in the program is something called executive coaching. Now, it is an extension of the LPO program, and you do it mid-cycle. Um, for senior executives who already have 20 plus years of experience, probably you got exposure, got a lot of coaching at work through the mentors in the industry. So at that stage, is an executive coaching really required, and does it really add value?
100%. Cannot speak more highly of better the platform that was given to us for executive coaching, right? And just for the record, this question was not prepared. It's just coming from my heart, and I think Ashwini, somebody might say, no, this is a stage question. No, it's not stage question. Go and check my records on better. I have taken 80 hours of executive coaching, right? Because when the coaching was offered to us, remember Ashwini, in the late last year, right? October, we had 3 months of coaching, and I had to do my job. I said, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to start my own company and then get the coaching from all these amazing teachers around us across the world. So literally, I change my time zone in the tool. In better tool, you can change your time zones, and you can get the coaches from Australia, from UK, from US, from India, from Hong Kong. All the cross cultural places, from your emotional health to how to lead the teams and everything else. So 80 years of coaching, I'm not kidding. And there's so much of repository of learning that I have put together to apply to the job as well. So executive coaching by all means, because it's not at one point, I feel that need for talking to somebody who is at your level of maturity, right? Then in the corporation, let's say you are a leader and you are leading 100 people team and 1,000 people team. people look up to you, and it's very lonely at the top, right? It's said that very lonely at the top. And if I can quote one ghazal, very famous ghazal that I love a lot, right? In terms of it says that कभी किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, कहीं जमीन तो कहीं आसमान नहीं मिलता, ये क्या अजाब है, सब अपने आप में गुम है, जुबान मिली पर हम जुबान नहीं मिलती. सो जुबान मिली पर हम जुबान नहीं मिलता, इसका मतलब है कि यू कैन टॉक बट यू डोंट नो somebody who talks like you, somebody who can talk your own language, right? So that executive coaching gave me that way to express myself in terms of the matured people and people who had degrees in psychology, right? I mean, really tenured people who are teaching or coaching for last 20 years. They are talking about now how do you grow as a leader? How do you go and position yourself? Right? At one point, I showed them my profile. Look, this is my profile. I'm trying to start my own company. How do I now approach my clients? And can you give me a pitch? So literally, if you go to marva.ai, my website, and then look at the content, that is written coaches. Because the coaches have helped me or have tried to pivot that to the question to them, you know, how do I position myself? How do I position the company? Right. So all those things. So I can't speak enough about executive coaching. It is phenomenal, and it is one of the best highlights of ISB and Thomas. I think we must continue in the future as well.
Excellent, very insightful solution. In fact, for our participants, the executive coaching is an intervention that happens midway in the cycle, and you get access to almost 300 plus coaching modules which are there with coaches from across the world. And it's a tailor-made intervention. It's a one-to-one intervention, and you tailor it according to your needs. Srinivas, some more insights from your side. How has it been for you? What is your take on executive coaching?
Yeah, like Sudarshan actually brought out, I still remember when the executive coaching was happening, Sudarshan in the group had said, don't only go with one coach, you can go with 2-3 other coaches. So that is when I realized that there is not only, I mean, you can not only go for life coaching, you can have communication, so many things, NLP, everybody is there. The thing was open for us. And I just found one amazing coach from Singapore, and like she was able to, as when you are a person, you have a slight bit of ego. You don't want to hear what is wrong with you. So like in that Johari window, that a piece which nobody knows about you, you also don't know, others don't know. You are trying to, the coach brings out all this. So you find out something which maybe you and any other people around you didn't know about you. And there are strengths and weaknesses. The analysis is done. It is built on that. And you get to work. The coach gives you so many modules. You can choose. You can say, okay, now I want to work for the next 1 week on this. And slowly you start realizing that where you can improve, where you're good, and how you can leverage on what you're good. And I think it was a whole soul. The experience was so amazing that at the end of those 3 months, I mean, I had my priorities clear. I mean, I think I had, since I was not doing anything, I was trying, like Sudarshan said, it gives you a clarity. I was trying to get into so many things, but my coach was able to streamline all that, tell me, okay, find out what you're interested in. And like, and the coach doesn't tell you, you are the one who arrives at that decision. So, and they are able to bring out this. I think I in upgrade also I had one coaching, but the coaching that I got in ISB, I think that was next level. So I think I 100% like totally agree with Sudarshan.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you for narrating your experience. Now, Ashwini, let me come to you. Another aspect of PGPMAX is that we have international immersions as part of it. Now, you're gearing up for your Wharton immersion, but give some insight on the London Business School immersion, please. Now, we do have global faculties coming. So, is that immersion going to give you some additional experience? Is there something separate or something different that you go through when you go for that international immersion?
Sure. Is it okay if I can touch one liner on case study and one line
Please do.
for executive coaching? Because when the Sidhu and Srini was talking, I was getting excited because I think that's the best to a person like me. Case study, I think Sidhu has taken that, but you know, the main person in the case study who actually, like for one of the big hospitals turnaround, our professor got that individual who actually did it. I remember Paul Levy online, you know, talking about that entire case study which he did. So the main guy was in front of you on the screen. Tata Steel digitalization, recently Piyush Gupta, he came online. emphasis case study, I remember the CEO, I think Mr. What was the name? Nikhil or something, I forgot. Naveen or something, he was there. So CEO was there. I mean, he was talking how he turned around the emphasis. Fluid AI, that's the most recent case study. So you picked it up very well. The founders were there. So that's the best piece of, I think that's the best piece. And Sidhu is correct. In the beginning, we were like, what the heck is that? I did not pay this much for 90s case study. We think like this. So let's be honest, right? But then we realized that, well, look at this guy, Piyush Gupta, Tata Steel, who probably is going to be the next CEO of Tata Steel, is in front of us. The CEO of Emphasis in front of us. So that adds a lot of value. And there is a Q&A happens. You can ask questions to those guys. And in fact, our last professor, just in recent term in Hyderabad, he actually got all those speakers. He gave us chance to submit our questions, and he was asking all those questions. Executive coaching. Everyone needs coaching, but I think I'm talking about myself here. Okay, the age group where I am, it's a multi-dimensional support you need, because that's the time you go through your emotional ups and downs. You go through your career ups and downs. You go through your life support systems ups and downs. Because 45 plus is the age when all these things come together and they test you, right? They actually make you a real person, because post 50, 52, you become that kind of person. And Better Up actually helped me, in getting to that multi-dimensional sort of coaches. So I had so everyone gets primary coach, but I had a career coach. I had an EI coach. I think Srini and I got the same Singapore the doctor coaching us on EI. I had a lot of things on EI. I had two more coaches, one on life skill and one was on, I remember it was more on my personal side of things, but immense exposure. So I think everyone needs coaching. Even if you're CEO, you probably would need maximum coaching. So that's probably is the thing of the past, that no one needs coaching. Everyone needs coaching. Better Up was one of the best thing happened in ISB for me. So I think that's the money back guarantee which ISB can give to their future prospects, that, okay, if you come, then we'll give you better access. Instead of 3 months, I would request them to give at least 4 months or 5 months access, because it's huge. It's immense. It's great. International immersion, LBS. Global faculties come. They teach you in Hyderabad, Mohali. I think one, maybe Sidhu and Srinivas can add on to this, but I think one of the things which actually makes international immersion very, very strong is the connection between the cohort, between us. When you are in London, you don't have anyone to fall back on. You are within each other, like the 74, 75 people of us, the kind of connections we created, I would take it to the next level of intimacy, right? The kind of intimacy it builds when you are in international immersion, that's awesome. I mean, that you become like you become like a support system over there. Second is, it's also about the environment. Every time you go to Hyderabad, 2 times Mohali, but all of a sudden when you go London Business School, your perspective changes. And when the professor over there sitting in the LBS start teaching you, your actually interest level increases and you try to connect the dots at a global level. So I think those couple of pointers I have as far as international immersion is concerned. Wharton, I can't comment, but I know all the previous alumni, they go big on Wharton. And we all are getting, I'm sure you're also getting ready to make sure that we all don't sleep by 11 o'clock. We have to keep awake at midnight in Wharton. That's what they all tell us, that you have to stay awake till midnight. They'll keep on doing simulations. So we are looking forward to it. But yeah, the intimacy happens between the cohort because ultimately, see, if someone wants to learn about financial strategy, you can go on YouTube and learn. It's available. But when you come in the classroom structured model, where you have 74, 75 diverse peers, and the faculty is coming, or you go to the international immersion, your perspective changes, because I still feel that classroom connection brings you a very different perspective as far as the learning process is concerned. And that's the key. And the second is the networking, the intimacy which you bring within each and every member of the board. That also is the big USP.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashwini, for sharing that. Now let's move a little out of the classroom and see what is life at ISB. Srinivas, let me come to you. Is it, one of the questions that we get is it all studies and academic rigor only? Are there some parties which happen? Do you get ample opportunity to network otherwise? What is it like? What is life at ISB?
Yeah, so that 1 week, like I was telling you, it is so hectic. You start off with the classes in the morning at 8:30, you start with classes, you finish by evening. And after that, you have group assignments, individual assignments. By the time you finish all this, it's dinner and beyond. So we end up, I mean, there are times that beyond midnight, you'll see everybody will get together someplace. And ISB the campus is so beautiful. You have so many places where you can get together and sit. Everywhere in the campus, you have these nice stools and benches, and you have got a nice atrium and a cafeteria. So many times we are sat like immediately after classes. Sometimes we sit. Somebody gets an idea. You discuss with a few people around you. Then you want to talk about that. Go and have a cup of tea together. In the evening, you want to interact like as a group. You go out for dinner, or you go to a pub or something. So there is, but even that is like hectic. So you're trying to meet up with different groups of people, trying to connect. It is definitely there is hard work. You play hard, you work hard, you play hard, and you party hard. So that is how ISB is.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, Sudarshan, let me come to you. One of the advantages that we say that you get out of ISB is that access to a larger community. It's not just the PGPMAX community. You have a larger alumni base. Now, there are multiple programs which happen on campus. There are multiple various people from various backgrounds who would come to the campus. Does this network help? Has it been helpful for you? Is there any insight that you have on that?
It has the alumni network has beginning to help out. I will be honest that it has not fully. I have not probably taken most advantage out of it yet. But what has helped me is the professor connect, right? So as you know my background, I'm an academician. So I'm a teacher. I'm a professor in my college. And when I go and talk to professors, I look at them not just as a student and teacher relationship, but I'm also looking at them as a role models that they are teaching something and then teaching so beautifully well. I want to learn from them. I want to take their idea. For example, the last session, Ashwini, if you remember, Ashwini, we had Professor Shadri who was teaching a course and he did a theater at the end of the whole thing, right? Which was completely, bonkers. Like, how can you do theater for marketing? And we were like, we enjoyed the experience so much that I said, especially process, use that learning, right? Connection and take it back to my college. Can you help me? So he's like, no, I'll tell you how to organize this, right? For doing a theater for data science. So that is there. So I learned something from him. Then Professor Chhatre, was teaching us innovation and the whole GSB government and entrepreneurship and the different aspects. I went back to him when I started my own incubator here in Pune. I went back to him. I said, "Sir, I want to learn from you, and can you give me some insight how to do social transformation through your insights?" He's amazingly insightful man and works on many government projects. So he helped me a lot to formulate my thoughts about how to set up my incubation center. And he's now a board member as well on the board of the incubation center. So that has immensely helped me. The connection with professors across the board, right? From the Charles, for example, Charles Rush from Denver University. I'm still in contact with him. He's my coaching me. So to answer your question, maybe alumni, I have not seen that connect yet. I'm sure that will happen. I heard a lot of good stories, but Professor Connects immensely helped me to enhance my teaching and my incubation center as well.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Thank you for sharing that. Ashwini, what is your take? What is life at ISB if you have to sum it all together?
For ISB altogether, overall,
Altogether, yes.
my return of investment is awesome. I have never thought of in terms of tangible benefits, some numbers. For me, it was like return of my own intention. And that's what ROI is for me. I wanted to unlearn perspective. I wanted to have an evolution of myself, prepare myself for the next probably version 3.0 as far as career is concerned. I probably will venture into entrepreneurship post 3-4 years. What Sudarshan is doing, that's what I wanted to do actually. I want to go into social entrepreneurship and all those in the future. But I think I have got some ingredients from ISB, which is going to be helpful. Professor Connect, it's awesome. I mean, you send them a mail, they are available. In fact, when Sudarshan was talking about Professor Connect, one of our professor who taught us management of organization, he was there recently in Hyderabad. I actually did one-on-one session for myself on certain of my questions related to my leadership style and all those perspective. And he has spent almost like more than 2 hours on one session and another 2 hours on another session. He was in US at that time. So he gave me that kind of an attention. So they're very helpful. As far as alumni are concerned, I've not connected with them in terms of tangible benefits like career progression or all the same, but in terms of taking an insight out before admission and during admission, still during classes, going back to them and checking how you studied this, how this works. They're very insightful. They actually help you. Third, probably is my LinkedIn connection. It has increased big time post coming to ISB. I think that brand was lacking in my overall profile. It got added, and it's like if I write an in-message or in-mail to a CEO of I mean, recently I did with one of the top-notch services company in Philippines, and I just wrote a message, we were not connected, and the response happened, and he sent me a connection request. It was not happening before. So that kind of an image makeover happens for you because if you want to be successful in your life, your image makes all the difference, right? Everywhere. But last but not the least, my return of intention was always unlearning and learning. I was not looking in terms of monetary perspective, which I'm getting well. First 3 terms, I was not, I was concerned. We all were. Our entire cohort was aggressive. We all were concerned that how things are going, especially when one of the modules was taught online. So we were like, what the heck is this? We have not joined this course for that. But I can tell you, we never knew how the journey is actually. And post 4, 5, and 6 term, we realized, oh, this is awesome. This is actually an evolution. So that's my key take on ISP. Alumni network I've not used much right now, except the insight for the program. Probably we'll check on that at the right time.
Thank you, Ashwini. That's an important point that you brought up. The ROI is, in fact, one of the the most favorite question that I keep getting a lot. Now, let's acknowledge that it's an expensive program, and it is also a very significant investment, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of the time and effort that you have to put into it. So let's carry on that thought a little. Srinivas, let me come to you on this. Having done 9 terms now, having gone through most of the program now, how would you define the ROI? Have you started getting a picture of what is going to be the ROI? What are your takeaways from the program so far?
Yeah, so it's been 9 months, and I like Sudarshan and Ashwini brought out, there is no not much of tangible ROI immediately, but there are so many other intangibles that you have to look at. Like Sudarshan was saying, the professors that you get. I mean, I also with a few other cohort mates, we are doing something on the social enterprise side. And Professor Sheshadri gave us about 2.5, 3 hours. He sat with us and explained everything to us. So that return, and it's for life. It is not only now. We can always shoot a mail to Professor Sheshadri and he will get back to us. Any other professor, Professor Chhatre also, like I had a discussion with him also. And now you have got this connection for life. So that is one return on investment, that you have got industry experts who had been in the field and have done tremendous things and are now available as what do you say, a bank for you. That is one. The second thing is like your alumni network. I have connected with so many people on LinkedIn. Being from the forces, I never had any corporate connections, but because of my ISB, having that ISB thing, I'm able to connect with them. I found ISB alumni in the Web3 space also. I've connected with them, and like I get invited to events which are happening in Hyderabad. So that is another return on investment that you won't be able to talk about. And the third is this cohort of mine. Like I have spoken to people about issues that I had, like any ideas you have, you can just throw ideas to them. Nobody's going to steal your idea because these guys are your friends for life. So there's always that fear when you're outside that if you have a fantastic idea, somebody might take it from you. But these people are there. So that is there. And now coming to, I've seen people before me from the forces who have done the PGPMAX course. Immediately they don't end up in getting some high flying job or something, but if you see them a year 6 months to a year later, they are always in senior positions, or they have done a startup, they have become entrepreneurs, something like that. So there is an ROI. It happens later, it doesn't happen immediately, and there's a lot of intangible benefits that you get.
Thank you, Sri, for that. Sudarshan, let me come to you. How would you sum up ROI? What is your take on ROI from PGPMAX?
Yes, clarity. You get a clarity of thought, and that is priceless. So I think I remember that famous ad right from Mastercard. It says there are things that money can't buy. For everything else, there's Mastercard. So I want to extend on that thought that whatever money can buy, you will get at ISB in terms of best professors, best location, best food, the whole environment. But what money can't buy is the people that you can connect with, who can you learn from, the kind of connections that you make, right? And the kind of learnings you have in the middle of the classes, or on one evening, you are drinking a coffee with somebody, and then something lights up in the brain, and then that sets a trajectory for the next 3 years of your life. That is priceless. You can't buy that, and you can't even put that in the formula, right? It's not a KPI, it's not a ROI. And I'm a guy who's a data scientist, and I talk about numbers. It can't measure in numbers because it's transformational. It gives a clarity of thought and priceless. I mean, so I don't want to put that question into ROI. No, I do this course and I get 30% more rise in my paycheck. Not going to happen, right? Not going to happen immediately. It will happen that you have a clarity. You will do something amazingly higher value in next 3 to 5 years or 10 years, but it is not something instantaneous that it's not a Maggie, like 2 minute Maggie, right? It is not that. So if you are trying to look for that kind of a immediate return on investment, it's not going to happen. But it is going to make you into transform you into a totally different person. That I can assure you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Now, being mindful of time, let me shoot one last question to all of you. Sudarshan, I'll stay with you for the next one. Some of our participants today are from the new cohort which started in August. So they are part of the class of 24. What would your advice be to them on how to make the best out of ISB in the times to come? So given that experience that you've already gone through, what would your take be to them?
Yeah, so take a chill pill. I would say first few terms are very intense, right? And people will know Ashwini and Srini. Remember, I used to be the academic lead for the cohort, right? So at that time I have resigned from my job. I said, I have time, let me be the academic lead. And there's so many people get so many anxiety attacks in the first couple of terms that they'll start basically overreacting to a lot of things which are happening. And please correct me, Ashwini, Shrini, if I'm misquoting something, right? Because there are a lot of overreactions that look, what's happening? I don't want this professor. I don't want to see this old case study. Why this topic was not covered, and a lot of minutiae, a lot of nitty-gritties, right? You're just trying to split the hair. Do that. I mean, the larger picture, I was showing you all the cohorts, and there's a theme to it. There's a structured madness that you have, and then yeah, if it helps, I'm happy to, or I'm happy in your person as well. We are happy to sit with you and then show you where it is going, right? Because unless you get the picture of where this is heading, you get stuck to one course one time, you will get lost. Because you will get panicking unnecessarily. Because honestly, out of 24 subjects we are going to learn, and out 30 professors we are going to learn from, statistical probability that some people will not be at the expectation that you have given. not everybody is going to be 5-star, right? Nobody, we are all not 5-star as well at all points of time. So I would say slow down your expectation, just moderate them and look at the big picture. There are amazing things coming ahead in the future terms at you. And just be patient, right? Just wait for them. Unless something is really broken, don't start getting agitating yourself. Take a chill pill, calm down, take a deep breath. Yeah, it's all good. It's a well structured program, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Thank you for sharing that. Srinivas, let me come to you. Some of our participants today are in the process of applying for the program. So they are now considering the program. They are also having this journey of, this is the right journey for me and so on. What would your advice be to somebody who is at that stage?
My advice would be from my personal perspective. When I looked at what course I want to join, I looked at like I'm like, or most of us are in the 40s and 50s. So either you're when you're coming for PGP Max, either you're in your late 30s or somewhere in your 40s or late 40s. So when you look at that, you don't want to end up in a cohort which is younger and there are younger people who are away from whatever your group is. You want to connect with your peer group, because if you want to grow in the industry, if you want to move out from the current field into different fields, you need those networks. At a higher management level, you need networks, you need connections. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons to apply for ISB PGP Max. This course is, I think, one of the few courses, other than if you take maybe Sloan Fellows program, which is international. Other than that, I think this is one of the few courses in the world where you get the cohort and you get that batch size also. There's only 75. I don't think you get that kind of cohort composition and the batch size and the senior professors that you get in any other course. So I think that is one thing you have to consider if you're looking at getting to PGP Max.
Thank you, Srinivas. Ashwini, let me come to you to sum it all together. We, from an admission point of view, we keep saying that the course is going to be 15 months of transformational journey. Now you're done with 9 terms, you're going for the 10th term to Wharton. Have you started seeing that transformation? How would you define transformation? And what should a prospective applicant who is now considering the program know about the program?
So your last point was how the prospective students who are considering the program, they do. Can you repeat that once more, Thomas?
Yeah. So what should they know about the program, and what should they see as possible transformation from the program?
Transformation itself is a term which depends like how an individual is looking at it. Means when I look, it can be different for Subdu, it can be different from Sri, it can be different from someone else, right? But for me, I was looking at first of all about my leadership. Is there any change of approach? Is there any different perspective when I bring on the table? Am I asking the same old question, but in a different way, which actually gives you that kind of an input you're looking for, while you're heading a business in India. Transformation also, in a sense, for me was more societal. I am ambivert, so I don't get connected with people very quickly, and somewhere if I find someone very interesting, I get connected, like I become like extrovert over there. So for me, it was like how to build connections, looking at some of our cohort members, some of my friends in this 75 group, how they were building connections, observing them. I learned that portion also. I was never like that. I was different. And it happens. Everyone is different. How to build those connects, how to build those networks, a lot of understanding in like about when you are learning something new at this age, spending half of your saving. For some of us, probably 80% of the saving. How you're utilizing that learning in your work or your business or in your day-to-day life. Because if you're not doing that implementation, then there is no transformation. It's like, okay, it's a very costly certificate. but I want ISB certificate and I have to attend some classes for that certificate. So I'll pay 50 plus lakhs in a year and I'll enjoy international vacation and I'll get the certificate. That will not get you transformation. It's all about, are you implementing some of those learnings? You will not be able to implement everything. Like if you ask me, Ashwini, what is your, if you ask me some questions on microeconomics of term 2, I would probably be blank face. But if you tell me what you have implemented out of that course, I can probably tell you one or two things immediately, right? So it's about how, what you pick up and how you're implementing it in terms of taking yourself to the next level. And when I say next level, it doesn't mean you, like my friends have already shared, it's not a Maggi noodles or a Chinese food that बहुत भूख लगी है 5 मिनट में बना दो चाइनीज खा लेते हैं, पर ऐसा होता नहीं है. यहाँ पे आपको you have to go through the rigor. You know that घी जल्दी निकलता नहीं है, वो मथना पड़ता है काफी देर तक. So this is about that process, right? You're going through that process. You have to have a patience and just implement what you're learning. You cannot implement everything because it depends on your role, responsibility, and unless if you're not at all employed, because some of my friends in code, they actually left their job because they wanted to do this like a full time. I always advise people not to do that unless they have a hefty bank balance. It's okay for them. But you must implement the learning. Better of coaching, a lot of perspectives were told to me, which I never realized. Like that professor of ISB, when he did one-on-one, the way he gone through my roots and the way he picked up things, I mean, that actually like, what? That's why I'm behaving like this? He said, yes, that's why. And that's how you can cure this. I mean, I never had anyone in my entire life. I mean, 47. No one in entire life has told me that what is the reason for this and how you can improve on this. People were there saying that why you are like this, why you are like this, you are like this, you are like this, right? So implementation is the key. That's what actually helped me in transformation.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ashwini. Thank you for being candid there. Now, to our participants, we hope that all the insights shared here is helpful for you in assessing more about the program, in vetting the program to see if this is the right program for you. That was the intention of bringing our panel together as well. To our panelists, to Ashwini, Sudarshan, and Srinivas, thank you so much for taking your time, especially on a Saturday evening for this. A lot of our participants today are in the process of applying to PGPMAX. Whatever you just shared is going to clear up a lot of their questions on the program and help them in assessing more about PGPMAX as they decide, as they make this decision. Thank you so much for taking your time and have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you once again for being part of this panel.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have
Bye.
a good weekend. Thanks a lot.